It really was a semi-final for the ages. Mario's still with us. We welcome in Mark Ogden as well. Mark, only Manchester United can win a game, but yet somehow lose at the same time.
Yeah, it was a humiliating victory, wasn't it? It was a strange afternoon. But you know, they're in a cup final, but I don't think many Man United fans or anyone connected with the club goes into that cup final with any great hope that they can beat Man City. But they're there. I think they've got 6 games left in the Premier League this season, so all the question marks that were there before the game are probably even bigger now. But nothing has been answered yet, and I know what the big question is Erik Ten Hag going to survive? And I don't think he is, but I think for the rest of the season he probably will.
Is he right? Is anyone listening to him, Mark, when he says this is a big achievement, another cup final, 2 in a row for us at Manchester United?
Look, I know managers have to put a positive spin on bad results, but sometimes you just got to say it as it is. And he is increasingly embarrassing with what he says after games and always trying to find a positive when there isn't really one there. I don't think anyone's listening to him, and I think it makes him look more ridiculous, the fact that he's trying to find these positives when ultimately it's time to come out and say that was a terrible performance, we were very lucky to get through, some of these players aren't good enough to play for the club. You know, people have this kind of myth that Sir Alex Ferguson never criticised his players. And I remember after a Manchester derby when they lost at Main Road, he threatened to open the door and let the supporters in to tell the players exactly what he thought. So he wasn't shy of criticising his players, and I think sometimes you have to do that, and Ten Hag, for whatever reason, he's not done it. So,
well, isn't it self-preservation though, Mark? He's looking after himself. He wants to try and sell himself still because he wants to keep this job.
But is it? I don't think that works. I don't think it just makes him look ridiculous. I think he's losing the support of the fans by saying these ridiculous things. I don't think anybody in the boardroom is convinced by it. I think some of the players are looking at him thinking, "What on earth are you talking about? You know, what on earth are you doing putting Anthony on the pitch when we're 3-0 up and he's not tracking back and we're conceding 3 goals?" He's saying so many crazy things that people have lost faith in him because of that. I think he needs to be honest now and say what needs to be said. I think he will get a bit more credibility. But self-preservation, I think the only way he can preserve himself is to get his team defending properly and winning properly. I mean, they didn't win on Sunday. They won on penalties. It was a draw against a Championship team. But he has to preserve himself by better performances, better results, and somehow finding a way to beat Man City in the cup final in a month's time.
Mario, we heard Harry Maguire after the game saying, we played like kids for the last 20 minutes. Just explain to me how you can have so much experience on the pitch and you can play with that sort of standard. Surely, with Manchester United, 11 internationals on the pitch, even when you're 3-1 down, you've got to come together to fight against a second-tier side, a fight that we just saw completely non-existent.
Yeah, but, you know, like, when it comes to games like this, then, you know, when you play the cup games in England, they always say to you, I mean, in the dressing room, I remember when I just got there, they always say, like, hey, let's start from the first minute to really surprise them and making sure that we really attack them. Okay, they play the first half, the second half, whoop, they go 3-0 up, you understand, and everything looks really comfortable. They go inside, they have the chat and everything, and then he makes a change. The change for me was very critical because I saw Rashford, and that's one of the guys that you know, when he's on form, we don't have to talk about it, how great he is. But when he is dropping off and picking the ball up, like almost at his left back, that moment when he took off Garnacho, that's when the game changed. Because the energy was out of the team, and it was a player that runs and opens things up for you. He was also upset by taking him off, and I think that is what gave them also the opportunity in the sense of Man U started to drop off. They have the same problem what I always said. This is not the first time I'm saying it. The same like Chelsea have. You got to finish games off. You're 3-0 up, this is finished. You got to sit then, you got to say, if you want to really close the game off, you got to have a better tactic in the sense of like, when they expose themselves at the back, you got to penalize them. And they did not do that. They waited, they kept on playing, and this is the biggest problem because then you hear him talk, Ten Hag, and exactly what you guys said, he is too positive. Positive, it's okay, but don't make yourself sound like people are not going to believe in you anymore.
He looks a bit lost, Shaq.
Let me say, couple of things. I'll start with the positives for Manchester United. They're in the final.
That shouldn't take long.
Yeah, right, there we are.
They're in the final.
Move on.
They have a puncher's chance of beating Manchester City. I don't see it from where we sit, but they have a puncher's chance. They're in the final. The big complaint about Manchester United all season long, as was with this game, is that this is a team desperately lacking in character, in leadership, in fight, in resilience, however you want to package it. And you've seen that play out all season long. And that has fallen at the feet of the players for most of this season. Now, as far as Ten Hag and his post-game press conferences, I think he's still auditioning to steal. That shot right there, if I'm Sir Jim Ratcliffe, if I'm involved in Manchester United in any way, is exactly why I do not care what happens in the final. Ten Hag has to go. Now, I'm a firm believer that a team takes on the personality of its manager. And again, we've sat here all season long and said, no fight, no leadership, no resilience. You've just seen your team throw away a 3-goal lead. This is your job now. This is your time. This is the only time this is the time you have the greatest impact on your team. And you look as lost as anybody in Wembley. And that, for me, right there, now, I don't care what happens in a month's time. He cannot be Manchester United manager to start next season and hope for anything other than a team that looks just as lost as we saw him there.
Are we reading too much into this?
No. The house is on fire, right? And you stand and watching it go up in flame. Who does that? You only do that when you're helpless. And he looked absolutely helpless. And I thought it was interesting we were talking about Ten Hag not digging people out. I think he's in a position now. Generally, when you're coaching and you go and dig somebody out, you're doing it for a reason. And the reason you're doing it is because you know they can do better.
Right.
You know they've got more in there. And that's the...
You're trying to get a reaction.
It's the last resort to try and get a reaction from them. But he's looking around that team and he's like, I'm wasting my time digging anybody out because I'm not getting a reaction from anybody. And the last thing, what Mario said, you're relying on a teenager who's learning his trade in order to get you through, to get you over the line in the semi-final of an FA Cup. And Garnacho, when Garnacho goes off, it affects the team that badly. That's how bad this team is. When a teenager who's learning his trade is probably as big a reason as any why they lost the game.
Why is he taking him off? Is he scared to take someone like Rashford off? Is it easier to take someone like Garnacho off?
He's taking him off because he doesn't understand what I've just said.
Wow.
If he understood the importance of Garnacho, it's bad enough Rashford went off because when Rashford is on form, he drops off and he runs at people. And Garnacho does it on both sides. So no wonder that they were all over Coventry because they've got two guys who, they're so positive when they get it, they want to run at people. And of course you lose Rashford and then you decide to take the other one off that's actually getting you out. As soon as he went off, all they did was they got pushed back.
Yep.
And then either good play or the deflection or whatever, and you're back in the mire. So he doesn't see it. And that's another reason why he shouldn't be in the job.
But Mario, he hasn't just been dragged off the street. It's not me in charge of Manchester United. You know, he had a lot of success at Ajax. How can you explain that? And I know it's a step up, and I know it's a different level. However, you see him completely lost in that period. He knows football. He knows what he has to do, surely.
Yeah, but that's the same what I said, before. Last week we talked about it. I said moving to Ajax was a big step for him. He's now thinking, this club is big. It's huge. It's not, look, at Ajax it's okay. Don't get me wrong, it's a big club. It's a big club in Holland. You understand? And we have some history, yes. I'm not wiping that away. But when you come to Man U, it's another level. And in the level, I mean, every week, whatever newspaper or whatever TV you put on, they're talking about this club and they're talking about him. And everything is putting under is highlighted. What are you doing? When do you take players off? What are you doing after you're 3-0 up? What do you do? You're playing, okay, for example, he plays Casemiro at the back. He's fortunate that Coventry didn't penalize that situation because they should have gone harder at him because he's not a player that normally plays that position. So things like this, all the little things are coming out and he has to be careful because, like Shaka said, he's in the shopping window trying to sell himself as good as he can. But the face side of Mr. Ratcliffe doesn't give me a feeling that he's enjoying what he's watching.
So then what happens next? Because you've told us numerous occasions, Oggy, that Manchester United don't have the finances necessarily to get rid of Ten Hag and all of his team and then bring in another top-notch manager. So how is this all going to play out?
Well, I mean, the financial side of it, that has to go out of the window, because if the guy's not good enough, he's not good enough. I mean, you don't keep a guy on because it's going to cost you £10 million to keep him. It just doesn't make sense, because next season you have the same problem, United will be even worse. So they're going to have to bite the bullet and get rid of him and find a way to replace him. But the problem that United have got right now, I mean, I was chatting to Craig yesterday, and Craig was right. You would get rid of Ten Hag now to have a better chance of winning the cup final, but who do you bring in for 6 games and a cup final?
Right.
There's nobody out there. There's nobody at the club, even within the club, to come in as a caretaker manager. So you get to the summer, and the problem is, as Liverpool are finding, as Bayern Munich are finding, a lot of big clubs want managers right now, but there's no obvious superstar coach out there. You know, Nagelsmann's staying with Germany. You've had, Tuchel's on the market, but I'm not quite sure he suits what United wants to do. So there's no obvious candidate for Man United. I mean, we spoke about Gareth Southgate. I mean, for all his faults, a Gareth Southgate team wouldn't play like Man United are playing recently, but it probably wouldn't win anything. So the people at United are looking around thinking, well, Dan Ashworth hasn't arrived yet. We don't know who's making the choice for the new coach. If Dave Brailsford's in charge of that, which he's at the moment, he's a cycling guy. He doesn't know football. So the people at the club that would be charged of making the decision to bring in a replacement don't know what they're looking for. So, but that won't save Ten Hag. Ten Hag has put himself out of a job, or he will do soon, because his team is just not good enough. I mean, I was at the Ajax-Tottenham semi-final 5 years ago now, and exactly the same thing happened then. His Ajax team had a 2-goal lead in the semi-final and blew it at home to Tottenham and lost to the last kick of the game. 5 years on, it's happening every week at Man United. He doesn't learn. He can't seem to have take the lessons on board. And, a Man United might just be bigger than that. And Mario's right. He's gone from the biggest team in the Netherlands that bully opposition and get their own way more often than not, to the biggest team in England, but they can't do that because there's too many other big teams in England. So he's just out of his depth. And no matter what it costs to get rid of him, it'll cost even more to keep him, because the long term of keeping Erik Ten Hag at Man United will be more expensive, because there'll be more mistakes, more bad signings, more players underperforming because he's not a good enough coach. So they have to get rid of him. It's just a case of when. But the problem then is, who do they bring in? Because there's no obvious solution.
What about someone who's won everything, knows Manchester well, it's free at the moment? Jose Mourinho. Mark, he could be back.
Well, what do you mean, like for the rest of the season, or as a permanent coach for the next year and the year after?
You could come in tomorrow, take over for 6 games, lead them to FA Cup victory, and there we are, a new chapter in the life of Manchester United.
And bring light and harmony to the club and make it a happy place again, like he did last time. Look,
yes.
Jose Mourinho's last three or four jobs, well, like his last 3 jobs have been a failure. And every time the fail's got, he's picked up fewer points at Roma than he did at Tottenham.
All right, so Mourinho's off there. We need a name, though, Mark. We need someone. We need someone. Not Stevie. Who?
Well, that is the problem. And that's the problem that Ineos have got right now, because if Erik Ten Hag was to go this week, if they lose to Sheffield United on Wednesday and his position comes untenable and they're mathematically out of Champions League running, which they're already out of, then he goes, Steve McLaren goes with him, Mitchell van der Gaag goes with him, his coaches. Then you've got nobody there. They're not going to give the job to Darren Fletcher.
Wayne Rooney, get Rooney in, he's available, isn't he?
Solskjaer!
Wayne Rooney, get all the class.
I'm going for
Everyone, every ex-Manchester United player coming as a big team.
Well, this is what it amounts to. I mean, Julian Lopetegui's available. Let's be serious. Julian Lopetegui's available right now. But would he want to come in for 6 games? And, I mean, he probably would, to take the chance of 6 games with Man United, maybe win the FA Cup. But then would you have to kind of say to him, look, come in and we'll give you the job next season? United don't want to do that. But in terms of good quality coaches that are available, Lopetegui's available. So I think he'd be a much better option than Erik Ten Hag, even for the sake of a month. But are they going to do that? Who knows? But it's getting to the point now where one more defeat for Ten Hag, and that will be it, because they've got Sheffield United and Burnley at home this week. They have to get 6 points, but I'm sitting here now thinking they'll be lucky to get 3. So let's wait and see.
Let's indeed.
Who did Liverpool do?
What did Liverpool do?
They brought Kenny Dalglish in. Why don't they bring Fergie in? He sat up in the stand.
Oh, I don't know.
6 games.
Well, there we are.
6 games. Why not?
There we go. Yeah. All right. OK. Let me take a look at how things stand in the Premier League.
Yes, we're doing well, yeah.
Manchester United, of course, sitting 7th in the table. Chelsea, meanwhile, is sitting 9th. We've got an FA Cup bracket. That's where I was going with this. Manchester United, of course, will face Manchester City in the final, which will take place next month.